Hi, everyone, and welcome to Boosting Sales in 2025 CRM Insights for Dealers. This automotive news webinar is brought to you by DriveCentric. We're delighted you're with us for this presentation. I'm Emma Hancock, host, strategist, and moderator at Automotive News. Before I introduce our speakers today, a navigation tip. We encourage you to ask questions at any time. Just type them into the Q&A box on the left side of the webinar window and then hit send. I will steer your questions to our speakers toward the end of the session. Our speakers today are Steve Roessler, Chief Evangelist Officer at DriveCentric, Chip Diggs, Director of Internet Sales and Marketing at Sealy Auto Group, and Brian King, Director of Commercial Solutions and Systems Administration at Rogers Motors. And now I'm going to turn it over to Steve to get us started.
All right, Emma, how you doing, girl?
I'm doing well. I'm pumped. I can't wait to hear about these CRM insights.
Well, yeah, and Emma, I always do. I got to throw you a curveball right from the start. All right.
Okay.
Because look, we got a little surprise. I got a special guest, somebody that's in the DriveCentric studio. All right. So we got a new CEO, and I think you know who it may be. But if not, make a special guest appearance. Say hey to Mr. Matt Leone.
Hey, Emma.
Yes. My good friend, Matt Leone. Nice to see you in the webinar. What do we owe this pleasure to?
Well, Emma, this is day 2. I just decided to join DriveCentric, a great team over here. So I'm here in St. Louis at the headquarters, and day 2 on the job as new CEO. But I knew that this webinar was about to happen, and I couldn't stop but to say hi to you, Emma, and say hi to everybody out there.
Well, it's great to see you. DriveCentric is lucky to have you. So thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And I don't want to steal Steve's thunder and all this exciting content they're going to share with you all today, but just wanted to stop by and say hello. And we'll hopefully be sharing a lot more exciting news in the years to come here with you, Emma.
Can't wait. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. A man of many words. I love it. But hey, we're excited to have this guy, man. We got some really good things to shake and bake. So, but Emma, we'll get to the topic at hand with CRM, right?
Yeah, let's
talk about CRMs. All right. Because, the one thing that we want to be able to go out there and do in these webinars is really bring some valuable insight, how you could grow, how you could boost, obviously, your CRM. Obviously, we're talking about DriveCentric, but look, a lot of these applications, no matter what CRM you're on, we want to be very useful, tips and tricks for whatever CRM you're on. So without further ado, let's do me a favor. Let's bring up my man, Mr. Chip Diggs, all right, from Sealy Automotive. Chip, what's going on, buddy?
What's happening there, Jimmy Neutron? How's things going over there in St. Louis?
Oh, man, things are great.
Neutron.
Yeah, Emma, no heckling from the backstage, please. All right.
Neutron.
Oh.
Anyway, no, hey, Chip, you know what? Whenever you and I talk, I go back and I think about, you converting over to Drive, and just so the audience knows, we know converting over a CRM is very daunting and everything, which is head trash, in my opinion, to a lot of people. But I would love for you to tell everybody how when we went live with Drive, number one, because he was on a different CRM, everybody loved his CRM, was a power user of their CRM. I will give him that. But he had to come over and see the light with Drive. So real quick, Chip, just talk about, that experience transitioning from your old CRM over to Drive and, talk to the audience about that. 'Cause I think that's important.
Yeah, well, you're 100% correct. There's a couple of things in the automotive world that you don't want to do, and that's change DMSs and CRMs. That is just a headache. It's just something that most dealers don't want to do. And typically you'll find out that you'll stay with a system, not because it's better, but just because it's familiar. And that's really, truth of our business. And so when the group came to me and said, hey, we're going to switch CRMs from who we had to Drive, I was like, well, okay, let's go do what we're going to do. It's, I can't fight you. My name isn't on the dealership out there. It says Sealy, not Diggs Motors. So I went along with the program. And so when we went through the CRM, I was kind of gung ho and excited about it. And one of the reasons why I was so excited about the CRM at first was because there wasn't a lot of moving pieces. the Drive system was one piece. It was all Drive. There wasn't, this add-on, this add-on, this add-on. It was one system. So I was excited about that. However, after a couple of months of utilizing the tool, there were some things that kind of didn't sit well with me with the way you guys did things. And even though I understood them, being a power user of another CRM and them doing it very similar to the way I wanted to do it, I expected you guys to do it. And that wasn't just going to, it wasn't going to happen. You guys knowed me to death, which I'm not used to hearing. And at that point, I got with the management team and the ownership team over at Sealy and said, listen, this isn't going to work for us. We've got to go back to our old CRM. Because there's no way that I'm going to ask the guys to do this and they can't do it and get this kind of interaction from the CRM telling them they can't do it. And I had drafted a letter to cancel the whole thing. And Mickey really is the one that saved the whole thing because he said, listen, we got to give these guys a chance. And they're doing this DC-20 thing. Why don't you go down there, get a feel for the place, really get to know the guys, and understand a little bit better of how they operate and why they do the things they do. And needless to say, I mean, I'm glad he did that because I got to admit, the one thing about CRMs that I've always found hard is to get people to use them. And that is the number one key. If you can get your team to use a CRM, it'll prove its value. And that's what you guys taught me when I was down there. But it was a very, very rough start. But it's been a very, very good partnership in the last 3 or 4 years that we've been with you guys. So,
yeah, no, hey, I just think your story is it's a great one. Every time I think about you, I think about that. So let's get into the CRM now. When we're talking about challenges of what you're doing, going from your previous CRM over to Drive, what were you looking at for an impact? What were some of maybe the new stuff you were looking to do to impact your team by going from what you did to now what you're doing on Drive? What are your key indicators on that?
Yeah, so one of the big things, and I kind of alluded to it, is getting people to utilize the CRM. I find that, and I've been doing this since 1989, when you look at a CRM, most dealerships use it as a bean counter. This is my scorecard. This is where, I put how many car deals I've got sold, how many deliveries, how many emails, how many phone calls, all that stuff is in the CRM. But the utilization part of it, when you look at CRMs in and of themselves, only a small portion of them is being used. And the reason is because it's hard. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of information, but there's a lot of levers and buttons to push to get to where you need to get to actually utilize it. And if you know salespeople want things to be easy. And if it's not easy, they're not going to do it. And so one of the things we were hoping to get when we finally first went with Drive was to find a system that was a little bit easier on the eye, a little bit easier for the salespeople to utilize, and one that we found that they wouldn't pencil with. And by that, I mean, most CRMs have you set up to have a lot of tasks and different things to do, 30, 60, 90, make this call, make that call, send this email, send that email. And if you realize how salespeople use it, they see that in a given day. It starts out with 472 tasks that they got to do. They get through 20 of them by pencil whipping them because they really don't do any of them. And then they come back the next day or even 2 hours later and they have 30 or 40 or 50 more just because of the way the CRM is set up. So it really pushes them away from actually ever utilizing the tool the way it should be used. So that was one of the things we wanted to do, make it easy for the salespeople, find a way to make it easy. The other thing was that we wanted to be able to do is get newer technology for our salespeople. We understand that you can, phone a customer to death, you can email a customer to death, but there's so many more things that people like to interact with, like video. And with other CRMs, oftentimes that video portion of it is just an add-on feature. It's not a feature that's actually in the CRM. So a lot of times you're actually doing a video outside of the CRM, pushing it into the CRM, and then having to do another 2 or 3 steps to make the video process work. And one of the things that we found out is that the video process through this tool, through this platform, is extremely easy for us to use. We probably do somewhere in the name of 200 to 300, maybe 400 videos per store per month out of the CRM tool because it's easy to do, whether it be on the mobile or the desktop version of it. And then the big part, the final piece that we need was reporting. And I know that, when you're going into a CRM, the hardest thing to do is find reports that are digestible for everyone. A lot of CRMs, you got to kind of put them together or manufacture them and kind of add this one to that one to make it so that it actually makes some sense to people. The tool that we have with Drive really made it simple for us to have reports that people could see, not only that were daily reports, but weekly reports, but quarterly reports and yearly reports that they could go back to and match up side by side to truly see progress. And progress is what it's all about. It's not where you start, it's where you're going. And so it was easy to see that with the tools that you had and the reporting that you had in the system.
Well, no, and I'm glad you said all that, because there's something unique that you're doing that I want to share with the audience, because you said something. A lot of these salespeople, and no matter what CRM you're on, people are in what I call doing the task, do the task mode, right? You're kind of operating your store with no business rules, okay, which is obviously very, very unique. And what I'd like to show is maybe the mining picture we're going to illustrate here. And why don't you tell a little bit about how you leverage mining to set up your business rules for your salespeople, because it's very unique.
Absolutely. So unlike most CRM tools, what you have is, they'll set up things that you need to do in 10, 20, 30, 60, 90, 120, 160, 180 days. And we found that most salespeople are not going to follow up on a showroom customer, let alone an internet lead, after 2 or 3 days, maybe 7, maybe a week. And so what we decided to do was actually build a couple of different platforms or tasks, not tasks, but viewing things in the mining tool that allowed salespeople to see, here are customers that you've actually dealt with over a period of time and how you can actually go in and find them. The hardest thing about a salesperson's job is to find customers to work. Who do I have to work? Who can I actually reach out to and get some pertinent information to maybe re-engage them and have them want to come back and have a conversation with me again? The one thing that we try to explain to all of our salespeople utilizing any CRM tool or talking to any customer is that not every customer is wanting to buy right now. Typically what you have when a customer reaches out to you is they're trying to validate or get information on something that they've seen or want to own maybe in the future. And the problem with us at this point in our career is that we get a customer that comes in, whether it be on the phone, maybe even in the showroom or through an internet lead, and we believe the customer's wanting to buy a car now. And that may not be the case. So we'll go do our job right off the bat, hit it hard, and then 2 or 3 days later, we give up. And then by the time we've given up, something may have come in, something may have changed. And we have that customer out there. We remember the customer, but we don't remember enough about the customer to go back and find them to actually be able to re-engage that customer. So we set up a whole bunch of tabs in there that actually allows a salesperson to go back in that now, oh, you know what? 2 weeks ago, I had a customer, they were looking at a Ram 1500. Now, all of a sudden, we have employee purchase pricing plus rebates. What was that customer's name? I can click that tab and it all pulls up right in front of me. So now I can have that conversation with the customer. The last thing any salesperson wants to do, and I just know this from being a salesperson 25 years ago, is have my manager slap me upside the head and say, why didn't you call that customer from 180 days ago?
Nah.
About what? About what? What do you want me to call him about? I don't even remember what I talked to him about.
Get him a phone book. Get a phone book. Come on.
Yeah, you're picking up and you're just dialing customers for no reason. That mining tool allows you not only to understand that this is the customer, but go back in and see all of the conversation that was happening in that period of time and understanding when the time frame was. Was this just 3 weeks ago? Was it 6 months ago? Was it a year ago? What was the conversation like back then? What were you talking about back then? And actually being able to find it, because if you walk into any showroom, and I do this often in my stores, you'll see 3 or 4 salespeople walking around doing absolutely totally nothing. It's not because they don't want anything to do, it's because they don't know what to do. So as we implemented this process for them to have something to do, they found it being very, very beneficial to themselves.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense to everybody, because really that's what it's about, doing the right activity at the right time approach. And I think that's when you're going in there and you're mining inside your database and you pull up those nuggets for your salespeople, I think that's a more targeted approach given that situation. Now, as you're going out there and you implemented these new changes, obviously, I think it's made some good positive impact for your store as far as what you're doing from an internet lead closing percentages, and then maybe the team's morale. And I know we have a slide to kind of show your internet closing percentages, but if you don't talk about that as well as the morale of your people, because I think that's what's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we changed in 2022. We actually had a BDC that would reach out to customers, and I am not saying BDCs. I think they are a great tool or a great department. And I think if used correctly, they can actually lift sales. But we had an outsourced BDC, and what they could pretty much do is dial a lot of phones to get to see if people wanted to come into the store. And unfortunately, in today's society, today's world out there, people have a lot of information, and what they want is they want more information about the information they saw. So just dialing phones and asking people to come in doesn't typically work. So one of the things that we were able to do through changing our process is we were able to engage more customers with information. We are a upfront auto group that if you ask us a question, we're going to give it to you. So if you reach out to us and say, hey, I'm looking at stock number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what's the price? Not a problem at all whatsoever. We start you out with a video. We utilize a tool called an iPacket. If you haven't heard of it, I suggest you go and look at it. It's a great integrated tool that we've been able to do with DriveCentric. And we send the customer this information. And the reason why we do that is not to try to sell a car, but to get engagement. And this is where the salespeople found the bridge between just picking up a phone call and actually sending this information. Typically, if a salesperson calls a customer, it's, hey, Mr. Customer, thanks for your interest in the 2022 XYZ. What can I do for you? How can I help you? When would you like to come in to see the car? Instead of having that conversation, it's more of, hey, Steve, this is Chip over at Celia. I just wanted to let you know we sent you the information you were looking for on that 2025 F-150. Wanted to make sure you got it. And if you have a little bit of time, go over that information with you to make sure you don't have any questions. That is a totally different conversation that you can have with a customer. And customers truly appreciate it. And we changed it a little bit instead of, because dealers consistently have a hard time sending numbers to a customer. And the reason for that is because they believe that what they're doing is they're starting the conversation about how we can put a deal together. And that's not what we're trying to do at all. We're trying to show a customer how a deal is structured. This is how a deal is structured, Mr. Customer, from the sale price to the taxes, to incentives, to trade-ins. Here's how it's going to look. So when you come into the dealership, you know what to look for and what we're talking about. And what happens is when you send that customer that information, it elicits questions. What's this? What's that? What's this? And we don't do it like you would a typical sheet, a quote sheet where you put down 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. We put down 5%. 15%, 20%. Why? Because people are typically used to hearing that when they're buying homes. And if you ever look at a commercial on TV from Chrysler or Ford or GM, you'll see that lease that's $279 a month and it's got $4,800 down. That's not typically what we have coming into the store, but that's typically what they're going to see online, or on TV. So we try to match that. So those questions come out and you have organic conversations. And when you have those organic conversations, you're not selling, you're helping. And when you start helping customers, it makes them feel as though, which is the truth, that you're trying to move them forward to whatever it is they want to do. The last thing I'll say about that, and the reason why we did it so much this way, is because we don't want to embarrass customers either. We understand that a lot of people haven't been in the market for a while and payments were $300, $400, $500 a month. And so a customer to invite them in and look at a Ford F-150 and find out the payment's $1,300 a month when they had it in their mind it was going to be $600 is typically an embarrassing thing for them, because you get a lot of thanks a lot, we'll think about it, and then they ghost you because they'll never see you again. We'd rather start them out with their eyes wide open so they can have a better conversation. And if it's not the right move for them right now, don't sit in the showroom getting embarrassed by telling us that, by us telling you it's $1,300 a month, and unfortunately you just can't afford it. So we've done that, and I tell you, if you look at our reviews, you look at anything online, you'll see how customers have leaned into that's a great way to do business. Because no matter what we do, we can't take a $1,300 payment and make it a $500 payment without a whole bunch of money down. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. And, you kind of beat me to the punch there. I was going to ask you about, some of the integrated tools you're using there. You said you were using, what was it, iPacket?
iPacket, yeah.
Yeah, talk a little bit
which is a
about
great
that integration, how you leverage it within Drive, because I think that's nice information to hear to everybody.
Yeah, and it is a fantastic tool to utilize, especially with the way Drive has it integrated. So oftentimes consumers want information on vehicles, which is great. And typically what we're out there doing is we're trying to clip something or kind of highlight something and kind of paste it into the CRM. What this tool, iPacket, allows you to do is actually when you type in the stock number of the car that the customer is interested in into your email, it actually pulls an entire history and everything of the vehicle. So if it's a used vehicle, it's going to provide you with a Carfax report, service history, a video of the car, and the original window sticker. And when I say video of the car, it's usually a manufacturer's video of the car, of how it works and different things like that. And what's interesting about that is when you send the customer that information, it gives them a wealth of knowledge that they can look at. The cool part is when it's in the system and when you look back at it, you can tell what the customer is actually looking at in that tool. So if it's a Carfax report and you see that they've clicked on that Carfax report 3 or 4 times, when you reach out to them, you can approach the conversation of the history report on the car without making them know, I see you were looking at the history report. It's something that you know that they have questions about or that's gotten their attention, so that you can actually have that conversation. The other thing that's great about it, and this is where we all sit when we're especially on a used car, when we're talking to a customer, and even on a new car, that window sticker. It's important to know what the actual car was when it was new. Because if you have 2 cars and everybody says, well, I have a Camaro, you have a Camaro, and your Camaro is $22,000, the Camaro that I was looking at down the street is only $18,000, why is yours so much more money? You can actually show them why. Well, Mr. Customer, when the cars were originally new, mine was $54,000, the other one was $30,000. There's a lot more equipment that you're getting. And it's not you saying it, it's validated by manufacturer information. And all you're doing with the customer is lending that information that was already out there, but giving it for them to see. And I tell you, one of the things that tool has allowed us to do is negotiate a lot less, especially when they see that for service history, for example, that you've put $13 or $14 or $1,500 into the car getting it ready for the customer. And when you're talking to another dealer, well, what'd you do to fix it? Well, we put new brakes on it. Well, okay, did you or didn't you? This actually shows it. So it really helps in that area.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, some of the things we are starting to obviously do a lot more integration with some of these partners that are out there. So it's good to kind of hear that how you're utilizing something like iPacket within Drive. So we're definitely going to talk to you more about that. I will probably have some dealers probably talk to you about that because I know a lot of people use iPacket. So great nuggets there. Let me ask you this before I close you out, Chip, and I'm going to put you in the back. All right. But I got to ask you this real quick. For the folks that are out there, doesn't matter what CRM they're on, what do you think? What would you tell anybody watching this, what they should be looking at to improve their dealership within whatever CRM they're on?
The number one thing I would tell them to look at is engagement from the customer. Engagement is what wins car deals. And I think one of the things that we go into is we utilize the sale as whether or not we're effective or not. And that's not where the effectiveness comes in. If you look at engagement on opportunities, whether they be from the dealership, it's kind of like this. We all know that the more people we put on demos, okay, the more cars we sell. We can talk to a customer, write up numbers, and then if there's no demo, we'll see that the sales are lower. It's the same thing here. The more engagement you get with a customer, the more emails back and forth, the more phone calls back and forth, the more text back and forth, the more videos you send to the customer, the more engagement you get, the higher your sales get. It's just a given thing. You don't go out and run a marathon. Just start out running a marathon. You go out and you train on a marathon. You run a 3K or a 5K, then a 10K, then maybe a 15K, and then you run the marathon. It's the same thing here. You've got to take the steps and then you get the sale. It's not go after the sale, go after the sale, go after the sale. Go after engagement. If you go after engagement and you watch your engagement within your CRM, I guarantee you that number goes up, sales go up with it.
Hey, that's what we preach, baby. Talk to more customers, allows you to schedule more appointments, and you sell more cars. Give me a hell yeah, Chip.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Hey, Chip, no, a lot of great nuggets, man. We're going to pull you back, from the audience to wrap up. We're going to bring it Brian King up here. So thank you very much, buddy. All right. So that was Chip Diggs, everybody. Let's pull up Brian King. There he is, the handsome devil himself, Mr. Brian King. I guess I'll be the queen. So,
Steve, don't make it weird.
Well, you never know what I'm going to say, bro. All right. Hey, Brian, you've got an interesting story. Okay. So I always, I think about all the stories of people coming over, and switching to CRM. The thing everybody's got a unique story, but you and I, when we were talking, you were in the ever behold contract term, right? With your previous CRM, that thing that everybody loves. I'm in a contract. I love your product. But you decided to make a bold move, and you moved forward with Drive, and you paid for the other contract, right?
We did. We launched the first store. I can't believe it's been 4 years, Steve. We've been on 4 years with DriveCentric now. I had to look it up. When we launched the first store, the results were so good, right? The efficiency it provided to our organization and our salespeople, the visibility that it provided to all of the interactions that were happening were so good that we wanted to move faster, right, with the rest of our stores. And so we were in a contract, and we had some tough decisions to make, but we chose to double pay. We couldn't get out of the contract in some of the stores, so we double paid for 2 CRMs for a pretty significant period of time in a few of our stores. But it was worth it, right? We needed to make that jump. We liked the tool. We were pleased with the results. It was the right path for us. And so we moved forward, and we launched it and did it in all 6 stores over the course of, I don't know, I think it was 4 or 5 months total to get through them all. And we were live with Drive.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I think about that because, again, I come across stores, they're in contracts, and every now and then you get those diamond in the roughs like you that make that bold move. You know what I mean? And I know it's hard to kind of get beyond those contracts, but the fact it paid off for you is awesome. Now, look, obviously you have 6 stores now, right, Brian? You went from, since we started, you had 4, now you're up to 6, and you're managing all the CRM utilization across your stores. I know we got a daily log of all your activities, and I'd love for you to pull up this slide here and maybe talk about some of the nuggets here that you do to maintain people using the system. Just talk about this daily activity log, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll even take it up a level, and then we'll dive into this one. But if you take it up a level, 6 different stores, 4 different OEMs, yes, there are common processes that we use. We want certain things to operate the same way across all 6 of our stores. But there's also very unique variables in each of the stores. And with different OEMs, they have different requirements and different things we need to look at or do. And I kudos to the DriveCentric team, because not only can we implement those common practices and processes across the stores, but we have yet to encounter a unique variable or a unique process or a unique setting or parameter that we need to have to accommodate a certain dealership within DriveCentric. And we're not talking R&D, we're talking settings, clicking buttons on and off, setting permissions differently. The flexibility that the platform has provided to allow us to configure those unique aspects of our business directly within the system have been outstanding historically. Now, going down a level, right, getting into that activity report, I'll say it this way. We have very different styles as individuals and how we work and how we operate, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a sales manager, whether you're a general manager. And people think about and look at things different ways, right? So yes, we have managers that care about activity, right? How many tasks how many videos did you send? How many things did you do per lead? How many emails did you send? How many texts did you send? How many phone calls are you making? Yes, we absolutely have people that care about those things. But that's one of about 8 different ways you can look at your business within DriveCentric directly in the reports and the dashboards that are right there in the system. Some managers care about responsiveness. How long is it taking us to get back to a customer when they're sending us an email, a text, or a lead? Some managers care about when was the last time you responded? Like when was your last attempt? When was the last time the customer responded to us, right? When was that engagement? Some care about other metrics like that, but it's all built into the system. So the way that you manage, or the way you want to look or slice or dice your business, you can do it directly in the system.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And you obviously managing all the different stores, and you heard Chip talk about engagement. And, one of the things we obviously talk about DriveCentric is engagement. And, one of the things we have is this conversation screen. And I think this is very unique. I know there's a lot of other, people that have maybe other CRMs, which is great. But I want to talk about the importance of engagement and how you go out there. And, we're going to show this conversation screen. But Brian, what I want you to talk about is, how do you go in there and, help your fellow salespeople, help your store maintain the momentum of a conversation and manage that store through engagement? And we'll show that conversation kind of screen slide so everybody can kind of see what you're talking about here.
Yeah, I'm going to take you back in time. So I remember the first demo we ever had with you, Steve. I'd never met you before. You're kind of a character, right? And you were challenging us in demo number 1. And you were saying, look, in your current CRM, show me where you're at in your deals, right? Show me what's happening in your deals. And I was like, well, I can do that, right? And it was like, but it was, in fairness to you, in hindsight, I never got it until we actually launched the store. I didn't fully understand what you were saying until we launched, because it would take hours. Yes, you can see where you're at in the deals and what stages things are in and how you're responding to customers, but it was hours of work to figure it out. It was not simple. And so there's so many, the conversation screen, right? That people are probably, the conversation screen and the deal screen, when you can literally see, if you're a manager that likes to know what's happening right now and what my salespeople are saying right now, the conversation screen, you're live stream looking at the texts, the emails, the videos, the phone calls, everything that's happening real time. And then you can also, I want to look at yesterday, right? You can do that. You just toggle, hit one click, and you're looking at yesterday. Everything is there. I didn't get it. I didn't understand that we knew what stage in the pipeline each of our deals are, but it was really, really hard to figure out what's being said, where are we at in those deals, what conversations are happening, who cares, right? Who's doing a really good job at delivering a quality message and who's not. It's all right in front of you now, right? So that conversation screen, and then some of the evolutions that you've made with Genius, right? AI components of your platform, to go in there and hit one button and have a recap. It reads the entire record, all the back and forth, all the notes internally, and it writes in bullets a recap and a summary of what's going on with this customer. It's game changing. It saves, if you're a manager trying to understand a deal and you have a sales guy who's not very good at putting notes in, or not very good at updating things in certain customer records on certain deals, clicking that button saves them hours, in some cases a week, because in 10 seconds it's right in front of them and they can see where that deal's at and know how and where can I help either the salesperson or the customer to deliver better customer service in it. That's just one element of AI that you've incorporated, and we use many of them in your platform. But the Genius summary alone, right, as a feature that you built and introduced at no additional cost to the dealers, right, into the platform, right, and there's about 5 of them that you've done that on in the past couple of years for us. They all make a difference. They all make us more efficient, they all make us more customer focused, right? So.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. Yeah, we're always trying to leverage the technology to make managers more effective. So, yeah, I appreciate that, because that Genius summary button, everybody, just think of it as cliff notes of the entire deal. If you're desking a deal, you just want to know a little bit about that. That is a really great enhancement that we built for the dealers to, just get a better efficiency and temperature of the deal. So that's really nice.
And Steve, we all want, right? We want every salesperson in every one of our dealerships to have notes like that, right? You can pin the notes right to the top. We all want that. But it doesn't always happen, right? Salesperson gets distracted with another phone call, another customer coming in the door. They forget at the end of the day. Some just don't do it. It's so helpful to have that feature built in to where I don't need to depend or task someone with doing it every single time. And the other thing I'd tell you is, orphan customers. So we've sold a customer a car, our salesperson's no longer with us, and you got to make a decision of how you handle that orphan situation, right? The Genius Summary alone, just for orphan customers, where you can click a button and again read the full record, it allows the new salesperson to come up to speed, and they're not learning about how, what did they buy, how many dollars did they spend. It's personalized notes, right? If the customer reference, they have 3 cats and live on 60 acres out on a farm, it puts it in there as a note so you can use that personalized information to continue to build and maintain that relationship. It's not transactional in nature, it's personalized in nature.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That is, I appreciate you sharing that. That's, like I said, it's always cool to see how everybody's using it. Now, you're obviously training all the different stores. That's your responsibility. So I'm going to ask you kind of like a 2-part question, okay? Because this is kind of one of those things where, you get new salespeople that come and go, obviously, and you have to train them on a new CRM. Now, we go out there, we've been launching stores remotely, and that's always a pushback. But it doesn't matter. You've been on the system 6 years. How easy is it for new salespeople to adapt to DriveCentric? I mean, we've been remote launching stores. You've been remote launch, but just talk about your training process and hopefully how simple it is for your team to pick it up.
Yeah, so we talk about it a lot, right? The level of support that you get, not just when you launch, right, but long term, right? So, and the built-in tools, right, and support related articles and individuals that can immediately help you in the system that are there post-launch, right, all the time, and how easy and responsive those teams are in their support of us. But on launch, like to us, the challenge isn't like having your team on site with us. Honestly, I don't know that it would have helped that much, right? Your bigger challenge is internal with any new tool. The online training and the online support are so simple, so quick for people to take, and so straightforward in the application. Your biggest challenge when you're launching a store isn't, who's on site. It's who's done the online training that only takes about 45 minutes, by the way, and who hasn't, and just tracking and monitoring that before you launch. Because if they've taken the online training and they know what all the buttons do, and they know how to reach your pod, right, your support team directly, which is live people that you can chat with directly in the application, if they know how to do all that, the launch goes fine, right? It's just getting your own people to take the training is more of a hurdle than who's there on site.
No, we preach that all the time. And I know they got to do the OEM training. It's no different this day. So, all right. So, hey, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to ask you one question, and you can only answer it maybe in a couple words because we're going to get to Q&A.
Okay. What
would you say is the biggest difference? Like when you changed from your previous CRM to Drive, what would you say you gained from it? Ooh.
I think we gained complete visibility to how we were handling every interaction with our customers, and we simply didn't know before.
No, that's great. I mean, that's what it's because, like I said, with Chip, he's talking about engagement and the visibility of interaction. I'm always curious. I want to make sure that the store is going on. They're getting a huge lift in something on visibility. So that was like really a great word that I think the audience can appreciate. So. But you did good, Brian. That was great job, baby. All the way up there in the Northwest, baby. Brian King. All right. Emma, are you back there? Are you ready to come up to the front?
Yeah,
girl?
I'm here. I was just making little notes. I got to say off the top, I loved that iPacket feature where I think Chip was talking about it, where it actually tells you the used car price when it was new, because that happens all the time. Right. It's like, well, it looks like the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. It's a hugely different vehicle. So that's great. And the other lesson I just got to say off the top, I love focus on engagement instead of the sale. And what this is doing to actually enable that to happen is fantastic. So way to go, gentlemen. Great discussion. I'm going to turn it over to the audience for some questions. Okay.
Yeah, let's fire these questions at. What do we all got coming in?
Okay, so Ari is asking, what's the name of the integrated tool Chip was talking about. I mean, very early on, Chip. You want to remind us?
Yeah, that tool is called iPacket. It's interesting. Just a quick story about it. I had preached iPacket to our auto group for a while, and it was kind of, nobody really cared about it. The owner, Mike Seeley, went and bought a Ferrari, a used one, $700,000, something crazy like that. And the guy sent him an iPacket, and he brought it to my office and said, "This is the coolest thing in the world. We need to use something like this." And I laughed. Legitimately, how we got it through the whole auto group.
Well, that's very cool. Everybody wants an iPacket on their vehicle, right? Whether it's used or new. Another question here from Felicia. Well, she would love to pick Chip's brain on mining modules versus business rules. Are you prepared to talk about that now?
I sure am. Always. Business rules are great. I don't want to slam them. The unfortunate part about business rules is they don't always flow with what the customer is doing and what the customer wants to do. So if I have a business rule that's set up for a salesperson to call a customer in 14 days, and I just talked to them in 12 days and said, I don't want to talk to the customer until they come back from vacation in 16 days or whatever the case may be in that interim period. Now, all of a sudden, I've got a task that's in my system to do that I really don't need to do. I can't get rid of it. I can't do anything. So manager's going to say, why aren't you doing it? And it's not necessary. When you set these things up, when you're doing them yourselves, you can actually then set your next task yourself to know what you should be doing based on the engagement and based on where you are with the customer.
Yeah. So true. Another question here, just about making the actual switch. We started off, Chip, you made, the point about how nobody really looks forward to changing their DMS or their CRM, right? And sometimes they don't do it for the wrong reasons. So what would you say to other dealerships that might be hesitant about making a similar switch? Because it's not just a switch, right? It's not simple, but what would you say to them if they're sort of on the fence?
I kind of would equate it, and this is the one good thing about being in this business for a long period of time. I sold Oldsmobiles when I first started, way back in the day. And I remember my first car that I sold that had anti-lock brakes. And if you remember old anti-lock brakes, they actually reverbed back to you when you pressed on them. Mm-hmm. And people absolutely totally hate it. I had customers come and say, I don't want anti-lock brakes. I just want my regular brakes. Give me the car without these anti-lock brakes. Look to us at 2025. We can't imagine a car without, anti-lock brakes. It's a hard thing to get used to, but the technology that will move you forward will move you closer towards a better engagement with a customer. I can tell you that it's very, very painful from the standpoint of the switch itself. But an old athlete, you have to work out. You have to go through that pain to get to the reward. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be right for everybody. I'm just going to tell you that. But if you're a store that wants to be progressive, that truly wants to really work with your customers on a other side of the desk type of level with that customer, it's well worth it, because you'll not only see the benefits from your salespeople and the rest of the store utilizing the tool, but from your customer. And that's what we're all about. We're about the customer. If the customer engages more with the tool, it's well worth the pain. And it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's hard.
Yeah. And I think you made a good point also about pricing. Just if people haven't been in the market for a while, they come in and it can be embarrassing and it's a waste of time, and then you never see them again. So get them started early on, the lay of the land, right?
Absolutely.
Another question here from Allison. Great webinar. Thank you, Allison. What do you think is the most productive feature that sets DriveCentric apart from all other CRMs? Steve, I know you kind of asked a question like that to Brian before we went to Q&A.
Was there anything else, Brian? I'm just curious.
I'd have a hard time. My problem is picking one feature, right? So, and Chip touched on this a lot when he spoke. everything is integrated and built in from the ground up in DriveCentric, right? So even like Chip touched on video, right? But there's the desking tool, right? If you're using it, texting, click to calling. I mean, everything has been built up as one platform by DriveCentric. So it's hard to pick just one feature because there's 5 or 6 things that I think are better than any other CRM I've personally used in automotive in DriveCentric, but they're all integrated. They all function correctly, right? You're not struggling to navigate or having a different interface or a different look and feel in different parts of the application because it was built as an integrated environment, right? So it's a great question. It's not one, it's about 6 things that they do together that are each better than anything else I'd used, but they work in concert with one another in DriveCentric.
Well, I don't know if you can, I don't know if we might need a demo for this, but Barrett is asking, what exactly do you mean when you say iPacket is integrated? Like, is there a way to sort of walk us through that, or do we need to visually see it?
Well, and let me just help you out. So in DriveCentric, oftentimes you get a customer and they want information on a car. Typically what I used to do when I had my old CRM is I would go in and either try to upload something from the CRM and put it in there, or from my website, copy a link and click it in there and paste it to the car and let the customer see it. But that's pretty much the same information they were seeing on the website. So it really didn't give them any added feature. What happens within DriveCentric is they've built, I don't know if it's a code or what, where I go in and I plug in, I'm getting ready to type an email or send a text. I plug in that I want to use the iPacket interface. I put the stock number in, and then it pulls up the entire iPacket for the customer. So it says, here's the information you requested on the vehicle. And it's all there. It's not something that you have to go and grab from somewhere else, put into the system, and then send out. It's all integrated right into it. I would be willing to, as a matter of fact, if anybody wants to take my email address down, I'll be happy to send them one through Drive, because it is probably one of the most engaging tools we have because of the way Drive works. If it wasn't the way Drive worked and integrated it, it wouldn't be as effective. We have it on our website. People can see it there. But when we look at connectivity and when people use it the most, it's from when we send it to them.
Yeah, we could probably get Chris's, email over to you, Chip. We can copy it, and if you want to put it in Drive and then send them an iPacket example, we could probably do that.
Yeah,
just so
absolutely.
They can see it. And then Chris, if you got questions, we could obviously talk to you through it. And if you want to get connected, their iPacket's good company. Know a lot of people over there, so good partner.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was for Barrett, and we've got everybody's email. Just in case you're in the audience, you will get a follow-up. So for Brian, what AI in Drive do you use, and how is it working for you? How are you finding it?
So we actually don't use all of the elements of AI that DriveCentric even has available, but we use it in 3 or 4 different places. So internet leads, we have an AI component that comes in and will send an opt-in text, we'll read and summarize the lead, send an email if there's an email address as well, and try and get that initial engagement. 7x24, right? It operates all the time. I jokingly say it does a better job than some of our salespeople, but honestly it does. So it's probably okay to say that. But it's all about just getting the initial response and working towards recognizing what the customer said and getting some initial engagement. We use AI within the tool, both you saw the Genius summary screenshot, which reads the whole record and summarizes into bullets of everything that's relevant that we've learned about that customer, essentially. So we use that piece heavily. They also have it built in when you're emailing and texting customers. I call it the pink button. I don't know if that's what any of your other dealers call it, Steve, but there's an AI component that you literally you don't even have to start drafting something. Yes, it will fix spelling errors, but if there's a last customer response to us and you just hit that button, it'll read the last few back and forths that we've had with the customer and try to write a response, which that you can still then edit, but it adds emojis and GIFs. I mean, it adds character and personality to those responses. And that works both in text responses and email responses. And then DriveCentric has even more advanced ones that we aren't using, but I know a number of dealers are that have been real happy with, that are doing some of the follow-up. So instead of having a task 6 months after they bought or a year after they bought, or just inundating your salespeople with follow-up rules post-sale, it will handle some of those activities on its own. It'll also look at your deals that you've deaded and try and get re-engagement on those. And there's a bunch of other parameters of how that AI also is used within DriveCentric that drive value to the dealership and for customers. But, you know, we use it in 3 or 4 different ways, but it's in even more places in DriveCentric where we're not even taking full advantage of some of those, you know, higher end ways that it can do it.
That's great. Okay, I think we're going to do one more question before we do. Tass is also asking about maybe an iPacket, getting a sense of iPacket. So Steve, I think you'll be able to follow up as well there.
Yeah, we'll definitely, I saw Tass's question in there. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure she gets one.
Okay, perfect. No worries, Tass. Okay, one more question for Chip. We saw some of your internet closing rates. Have those continued to go up?
And they have, as a matter of fact, you know, the one thing that we're the most happy about with DriveCentric is our ability to raise that bar. So I think if you saw that first clip, we were at like 4% when we were in 2022. And I was like, at wit's end, why even waste your time trying to, I mean, this is a hunting game that you're just not shooting anything. And I think it went up to the 8s in 2024. First quarter of this year, we're at 10.2%. And last month we were at 10.8%. So it continues to go up. And the reason why it continues to go up is because people can see the benefit of true engagement with a customer. And what happens oftentimes with dealers is we look at our closing percentage on just the opportunities we got in that first month. Yeah. Engagement allows you to close deals after the first month. That 10 to 30, that 31 to 60, that 60 plus. And it's not about going in and chasing people down. It's people wanting to have conversations with you again because you treated them like a client instead of a lead right from the start.
That is such a nice point. You know, client, not a lead.
I'd say customer. It's always a customer. It's a person.
I'm writing that down. Okay, so we're just coming to the end. But before we wrap today, this has been such an enjoyable webinar. And dare I say, things like iPacket are making things enjoyable for the consumer. Before we wrap, gentlemen, any parting words today? You guys have done such a good job.
Go ahead. You guys go. You're the stars of the show.
I'll finish with one thing. I mean, one of the things that I talk about is being on the other side of the desk. It's so important for us to remember we're customers too, we're clients too, and oftentimes we forget that how we treat customers shouldn't be any different than how we want to be treated. And I know that's a little cliche, but just understand these customers aren't dummies. They want information. They want to buy a car. We just have to help them buy a car. We're not knocking on doors. They're knocking on our door. How easy do we make it to open it? That's the only thing I'll finish with.
Yeah, it's similar to Chip's, but I'd just add, if you're trying to enhance or build a culture of transparency, responsiveness, integrity, customer focus, this is the right tool for you, right? It's all about those elements of delivering outstanding customer service in your dealerships.
Yeah, I'll wrap up and I'll just say, like, you know, we're always trying to inspire all the dealerships to listen to the data and react to it. You know, and I think, you know, between Chip and Brian, you know, you're hearing about engagement, you know, and, you know, responding to customers and just talking to them. I'm hoping that a lot of people just go out there and start reconsidering, you know, having templates with what tech is out there, redefining how you do your business rules. The customers are buying cars 70% of the time in 4 days. The hottest customers are the ones talking to you. And I think, you know, listening to Chip and Brian, just echoing the fact that engagement is priority. I hope that everybody just resonates with that message.
Yeah, that really came through loud and clear. Well, that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thanks to today's audience for the questions. If you asked a question that we didn't get a chance to answer, our friends at DriveCentric will follow up by email. If you learned something from this session, please tell your peers about it. The recording will be available in about an hour. You'll find it at autonews.com/sponsored/webinars. When the webinar ends, a survey will pop up on your screen. We genuinely appreciate your feedback as it helps us create future webinars that are even more beneficial to you. Thanks again to Steve, Chip, Brian, and DriveCentric, and Matt for the surprise appearance, for bringing us this presentation, and to you for joining us on behalf of everyone at Automotive News. Have a great rest of your day.